Hi, welcome to my channel. Today I want to celebrate that I now have 100 subscribers. And it's a big milestone for me as a new YouTuber. So I thought about what kind of video content do I want to do for this? And I thought about it and I realized that there's a fragrance that I'm going to say one of my favorites only because I have a really hard time deciding on which would be my single favorite fragrance. And also because I have a hard time just wearing one fragrance. I have a hard time just wearing one because I like a lot of things and I like a lot of elements. Probably the reason why I started to make fragrance is because I wanted to have some ability or control to incorporate the things that I like into a single fragrance, not having to layer. That would be my goal, is someone not needing to layer my fragrance to make it interesting enough for them. And this particular fragrance is one that doesn't particularly layer well. I'm sure because it has a lot in it and it's potent and it's yummy. When I say yummy, I mean it's like mealy. There's something in it, and mealy has a negative connotation, but I don't want to say meaty because that evokes meat. It doesn't have to be, and it's not. It's more just something that you want to explore and chew on with your mind when you smell it. So this fragrance, it's from the house of Natura, which is a Brazilian house. And I believe that their language is either Portuguese or Spanish. This is the fragrance. It's called Ekos Alma by Natura. And this fragrance was launched in 2019. And here on the box, it says the harvest of 2019. So I purchased this fragrance from the Natura website, the US version of their website, in 2022. And the reason I purchased this was not for myself. It was for someone I was working with. And it was someone who, without being too specific, they were born in Brazil. And then they were adopted by a family that was working in Brazil. So after they were adopted, when they were an infant, they stayed in Brazil for their early childhood years. And they were adopted and they had some trauma associated with being adopted, even though their family was great that adopted them. Just knowing that they were adopted and therefore not their actual, their biological parents weren't able to take care of them. For some reason, they, struggled with that, being in that position in the new family, the adopted family. They were very appreciative, but they felt like they were on the end of being taken care of and not, like they just felt like they were not as good as other kids that were in their birth or biological families with their biological parents. And also they always wanted to know more about their biological family. And they also wanted to explore the time period that they lived in Brazil, because that was their only tie to their biological family. And so I found this house that uses a lot of raw materials that are from the Amazon and native to Brazil in their fragrances. So I bought a few and decanted them for the person, and the person used them in a type of therapy to get more familiar with it and find a better connection to their biological roots in Brazil. And so I got to keep the rest of the bottle from what they didn't use. And of the fragrances that I purchased. So I purchased 2 from Natura at that time. And so the other one is called Ilía Dual. I believe this was also released and launched in 2018. This is still available, but Ekos Alma has been discontinued now. And I know a lot of people love this fragrance. I can't find out all the reasons why they love this fragrance though, because all the other videos I was able to find on YouTube about this are all in another language. And then since then, I also purchased this fragrance by Natura. This is called Magia da Amazonia. And this fragrance isn't even listed on Fragrantica as far as I know. There's a different one that has the same look to it, and it might be the same fragrance, just a different name. And that one's called Ekos Magia da Florestia. Something to do with forest, but Magia da Forest. And it could be the same, but I can't go off of the notes. And I bought this on eBay recently, so it had already been discontinued at that point. So I'm not able to gain the information that would have been written about this on the Natura website when it was available. But I did gather the Natura information for Ekos Alma, and I have it in my notes from 2022. Otherwise, I'd have to go off of just what's on Fragrantica, which is basically just the notes and the perfumers. 2 perfumers for this one, and they are Verônica, Kato, and Yves Cassar. Yves Cassar, a male named Yves Cassar, and Verônica Kato is a woman. Verônica Kato has done several fragrances for Natura, and Yves Cassar has done fragrances for a lot of different companies. Yves Cassar works for IFF, International Flavorings and Fragrances, and it sounds like he started his career in 1984. Has done 2 fragrances for Abercrombie and Fitch, 7 for Avon, 4 for Calvin Klein, Crave, Eternity Summer 2008, Euphoria Blush, and Euphoria Essence. I'm going to skip to the houses that I've heard of. Donna Karan, 2. Estee Lauder, 2 fragrances. Giorgio Armani, 2 fragrances. Low, 2 fragrances. 6 fragrances he did for Natura. 1 for Paris Hilton. 1 for Ralph Lauren. 5 fragrances for Sense of Wood. Now, a person in my household has a subscription to Sense of Wood, and so every month, we get one of their fragrances. And one day I'm going to do some reviews on them. 1 fragrance from Sofia Vergara. 7 fragrances for Taffin Fragrances. 1 for Tom Ford, called Tom Ford for Men. 1 for Victoria's Secret, Bombshell Isle. 2 for Vince Camuto, and 2 for Zoologist perfumes. You know, it's kind of my dream one day to have one of my fragrances chosen by Zoologist in Canada for production, because I think that would be so exciting, and what an honor. So the fragrance that he did the 2 fragrances he did for Zoologist are Dodo Edition 2020 and Dodo Jackfruit Edition. And that was in 2023. All right, let's get back to this specific fragrance. The accords in here are listed on Fragrantica as mostly balsamic, and then woody, amber, earthy, aromatic, warm, spicy, floral, sweet, herbal, and aquatic. Parfumo lists this as an earthy, resinous fragrance. And Natura listed it as earthy, green, and spicy. Fragrantica lists this as a 4.38 out of 5, and Perfumo lists it as a 9.3 out of 10. That's high. Well, you know, I don't usually look at Perfumo's listing ranking, but to me that sounds quite high. Perfumo says that other users who like Ekos Alma often also like Gucci Guilty Absolute Pour Homme from 2017, Encre Noir 2006, and Moschino's Toy Boy 2019, and Voyage by Nautica 2006. The company's listing for this fragrance described it as, well, they say about it. They say each place in the world has its own soul, its secret essence, its sacred spirit. Such is the Amazon. The vast forest inspires, expires, transpires, but listen, it also suspires. I looked that word up. Suspires means breathes. Then they say stop, look, touch, feel, go further. From the soil of the forest, our creation harnesses the power and the intensity of a proprietary combination of ingredients that make this fragrance unique. Precious paprika oil, aged for 12 months in an artisan process, is blended with other precious Amazonian oils that convey the mysterious energy of the Amazonian life cycle to make up this earthy, green, and spicy fragrance. With essential oils that convey the mysterious energy of the Amazonian life cycle, this fragrance harnesses the intensity and live power of the paprika root and kumaru seed. Exhilarating copaiba and brew bronco resin lift the spirit and body, while the Amazon water lily, the most exuberant flower in the Amazon, exhales the strength of femininity. All the power of the forest captured in a fragrance. Be inspired by the powerful energy that emanates from the trees, the earth, and the waters. Re-encounter yourself in the divine that inhabits the Amazon and your soul. I thought that was really well written. So let's look at the notes. I'm reading from what they had listed on their website, which are a few extra notes. So they used some notes in this fragrance that aren't available yet on Fragrantica. And one of those is paprika oil. It's also called pre-pre. Top notes: paprika, bergamot, cardamom, mate, pink pepper, and black pepper. In the heart notes are living water lily, magnolia flower, jasmine, osmanthus, violet, and rose. And in the base, brew bronco, copaiba, kumaru, benzoin, carrot, cedar, cyst, patchouli, vetiver, myrrh, olibanum, and vanilla. I want to go through a few of these exotic materials that they're using and describe to you what they smell like. Since this fragrance is discontinued and I believe it was discontinued, not for lack of popularity, but probably because they mentioned they aged that one material for a long time, for 12 months. So maybe they ran out of that material that they had aged, the Purpurioca. And, you know, they say in an artisan process and blended with other precious Amazonian oils. So maybe they ran out of that batch of oil that was aged, and they just decided to put this aside for a little while. I imagine that they will come out with another edition of Ekos Alma because it was, I believe, very popular. You know, there's a minimum of 5 videos on YouTube about it, and people seem to be liking it, and it seemed to be, you know, ranking high on Fragrantica and Perfumo. So what I'm getting at here is that I have tried to create something even similar to this fragrance for myself. And because this fragrance was about $90 when I purchased it. And on eBay right now, there's one bottle available around $80. I think the person has a low feedback rating. And if that's the case, that's why I don't want to buy it. Also, I'm just trying to see if I can make it myself. So I got most of these materials here because of this fragrance. Some of the materials listed, and I'll go through them with you from the top, middle to the base, are named, they call it one thing, but really we have a different common name. Like there's something that they call it, starts with a C in the base, but it's actually tonka bean. Yeah. Cumaru. Cumaru is a very hard, stiff wood. And then when I looked it up in regards to perfume, it said that it was also known as tonka bean. Fragrantica doesn't list that, tonka bean, but it also lists coumarin, and coumarin isn't listed here. But Cumaru is not the same thing as coumarin. In the top, Purpurioca oil. I have some of that. Purpurioca oil. I got 10 milliliters of that, and it was about $50 for this oil. Yeah, it's a spice that's dry, a dry spice. The description that I've found online is that it's a spice with an earthy, aromatic, woody note. Okay, I would say that's true. Slightly sweet notes to it, yes. Warm, nutty aroma with hints of cinnamon, clove, and vetiver. Definitely vetiver, hints of vetiver. I don't feel like I can tell that there's any cinnamon or clove hints. And that it's used to create a rich, exotic, and intriguing fragrance, particularly in oriental and woody compositions. Yeah, it's very woody. All right, so then there's bergamot. We know about what that's like. Cardamom, that's a sweet, somewhat sweet. I think of a shade of burnt orange for some reason with cardamom. And mate, that's the green tea or something like that. I don't have that material. Pink pepper, I have. Okay, yeah. And then black pepper. And that's nice that they use 2 different kinds of pepper. This could have black peppers in it too. You know, that's the type of spice this reminds me of, is similar to black pepper. And then in the heart, they say it's living water lily, and on Fragrantica it just says water lily. And the word living probably refers to it being very fresh. And I don't have water lily material, and so it's described as delicate, fresh, and slightly aquatic smelling. And jasmine. We know what jasmine smells like. Violet. Violet can have a powdery, now it could be the violet leaf. I have the violet leaf and I have the flower. And the flower is powdery and sweet and hard to describe otherwise. But I have the leaf here and I want to check on how the leaf smells because they may have used that. Now the leaf is really well, slightly woody and slightly bitter and green. Green. Let me see if the scent smells like it. It's dosed on the low side, which it should be. Something that's so green and bitterish needs to be low dosed. And then they mention osmanthus. I still haven't diluted this osmanthus further than 5%, but I need to because I can't really get a great sense for how it would smell in a fragrance with such a high concentration. It's not the way you use it in a fragrance. That's really hard to describe. Okay, so online, osmanthus is described as fruity, floral, and apricot-like with hints of green tea. Yeah, I would say that's right. Hints of green tea and suede. Sweet, but not overwhelmingly so, and possesses a subtle, leathery undertone, lending a sense of brightness, warmth, and femininity to fragrances. It's often used in floral compositions as well as in oriental and fruity floral perfumes. Well, this fragrance is not very feminine. There's a sweet balsamic tone to this that is maybe potentially feminine, but definitely towards unisex. Okay, and then in the base, there are a few that I need to explain better. The Brew Bronco. It's also known as white brew or white resin. I have some here. This was 5 milliliters for $60, and I got this from a company in Hawaii. I couldn't find anywhere else to buy this. It has so it's a white resin, and it is called white resin. I don't know if it's white because it doesn't look white. It has a complex scent profile that is often described as woody resinous, slightly balsamic, and with hints of pine, cedarwood, and frankincense. Certainly, the pine is very prominent, and that's why on my other video I did, if you saw it, I was mentioning turpentine because it reminds me of the smell of turpentine in a good way. With subtle, earthy, and floral undertones. In fragrances, Brew Bronco can add depth, warmth, and a touch of exoticism, creating a unique and captivating olfactory experience. Yeah, I smell it in here now. Oh, wow. You know, that's the first time I was able to smell it in this fragrance. Oh, and there's also something that reminds me of a seed, like the center of a seed, a spicy seed, a seed that is from a spice. Yes, similar to turpentine in a way. All right, creating a unique and captivating olfactory experience. Yes. Brew Bronco this is what I've gathered, it is called the frankincense of the Amazon. It comes from a tree in the Amazon, and it is used for lots of purposes, including mixing it with a carrier oil to dilute it, and then applying it various places on the body for healing benefits. I believe it also is said to be antibacterial, antimicrobial, and anti-inflammatory. And the person that I saw the video about it on YouTube said that it is 85% similar in like relation to the frankincense tree, olibanum. All right, and then the next material is Kummerow. And when I looked it up, just by itself, the word Kummerow, it came up as a wood, and it was in relation to that context. It's a very stiff and hard wood. But then in relation to perfume, I found that it's also known as tonka bean, and we've all heard of that. It's often used in perfumery for its warm, sweet, and slightly spicy aroma with notes of vanilla, caramel, almond, and tobacco, and a hint of cinnamon. In perfumes, Kummerow adds depth, richness, and a cozy, comforting feeling to fragrances. It's often used in Oriental and gourmand perfumes to provide a sensual and indulgent scent experience. And then next is Ciste, Ciste. And Ciste is described as warm, spicy, amber, balsamic, floral, with woody and dry accents. The parts of it are used are the leaves, branches, and resin. This is called the creme de la creme of perfumery. Ciste labdanum is an ever so spicy and amber-like resin adored by perfumers and fragrance wearers alike, sometimes interpreted as having slight leathery or honey-like nuances with hints of plum. Ciste labdanum is revered for its powerfully complex qualities, hints of floral undertones, and deeply warm facets make this resin a popular note in ambery fragrances. Okay, so those are the ones that I wanted to specifically mention. Also, Fragrantica does not mention cedar, and the website did mention cedar. Benzoin. And yes, I believe benzoin is in here. Carrot. Now, I just want to touch on carrot because carrot seed oil is something that is used in perfumery, and it gives it a really substantive quality. It's somewhat neutral, slightly sweet. And if you just think about a carrot and really condense that smell without all that sweetness, you'll get carrot seed the way it smells. It's used in a lot of fragrances. I think that they don't mention it as a note on Fragrantica for all of the fragrances that it's in, because it's kind of off-putting. Like when you see the rest of the notes and you're looking for a fragrance and then you see carrot there, some people really love carrot in fragrances and they know that. Like for instance, Sarah Mays, who has her own YouTube channel, she says that she's noticed that just every time carrot is in something, she loves it. And she loves carrot. But not everyone is as, knowledgeable about how they are regarding carrot in fragrances. So I think sometimes it doesn't get mentioned because it doesn't stand out, because it's not a carrot fragrance. It's a fragrance that just happens to have carrot because of what it can do in the base notes. And patchouli, that there is patchouli in here. And it's kind of like one of those things where I can believe that they're telling me. I do believe, because the way, just the feel of this fragrance, the forest, it's like if patchouli wasn't in here, it would be because they were able to do something like that with the other oils that they used from the Amazon. But they did put patchouli in here, and it shows me that even if they have to choose from all the things that they have in the Amazon, they still choose patchouli. And quite likely patchouli grows in the Amazon as well. But patchouli is in here, and It gives it more substance along with everything else. Then there's vetiver in here, and there's vetiver tones to one of the other materials. Vetiver doesn't stand out to me. Oh, I smelled carrot there. See how the power of suggestion? I was just talking about carrot, and now all of a sudden I'm smelling it a little bit in here. Myrrh. Yes, so myrrh is one of my top favorite materials, myrrh. And I like it because it's like sweetness without being sweet. It's a spice that has something that it brings that you can use instead of vanilla or something. It's got various facets to it, including something something kind of oily there as well in the base of the myrrh. But usually you don't smell this. I want to make a perfume that highlights myrrh because I think it's beautiful. Beautiful, and I want to smell it like as a showcase material. And let's see, olibanum, that's another word for frankincense. I have some here. I found my olibanum. Yeah. And it doesn't smell the same as myrrh, but it has some similar facets to it. Yeah, so that means that it would go together very well with myrrh because they have similarities. Okay, so the benzoin, because I'm trying to figure out what in here is creating the sweetness. There's a distinct sweetness in this fragrance, maybe in the mid, maybe in the base. And it makes me think that maybe there's sandalwood, but they don't mention sandalwood. So it could just be a blend of the benzoin that they used and the tonka bean and the vanilla. And then these other materials that have a sweet tone within the rest of their complexity. Yeah, it's something creamy. That's why I was thinking about sandalwood. Okay. Capa balm or balsam. I call it Capa Balsam, but maybe that's because the material I got says that on its bottle. Here is my Capa Balsam material. And it's hard to smell this because it's not very strong. Yeah, so I read online, how do people describe Capa Balsam or Capa oil? It has a warm, resinous, and slightly sweet scent with earthy and woody undertones. Often described as having a balsamic aroma reminiscent of honey, vanilla, and caramel. I'm starting to think that might be where this is coming from, the sweetness I was describing, combined with hints of spice and tobacco. In perfumes, Capa adds depth, richness, and a natural sweetness, contributing to warm and inviting fragrances. This is a warm and inviting fragrance. It's commonly used as a base note in oriental and woody compositions, as well as in blends, aiming for cozy and comforting scent profile. Yes, so I haven't noticed it being that sweet when I use it in fragrances. It's an excellent fixative and it's inexpensive. I don't remember how much I paid, but this is a big bottle. So I got this for less than $15 and you need to dilute it when you're using it. So this is going to last me for years. It's an inexpensive and natural fixative, which means that it will bind with other materials in the perfume and make the fragrance last longer. It has a lengthy history of use by indigenous people, and they use it for many things. So it's a fixative in low-cost violet and wood perfumes, lavender or fougères, in detergent perfumes, and industrial perfumes. Now, what's an industrial perfume? It comes from a tree that has legumes in South America mainly, and 35 species have adapted to the continent's unique terrain. When tapped in the same manner as sugar maple trees, they yield a thin, clear, and colorless, oily resin that thickens and darkens upon contact with air. It's similar in consistency to sandalwood oil, and it is collected from the tree over several days, and then the small tap is removed, and the hole is sealed with clay. The tapped trees are left to rest for 3 years between extractions. The abundant resin, up to 40 liters annually, may be filtered for use as lamp oil or as fuel for diesel engines. Hence the nickname diesel tree. And the balsam is preferred by some to the distilled oil, as it doesn't require branches or whole trees to be cut. But more importantly, it contains vital diterpenes that do not appear in the essential oil. Okay, so I guess you could get the essential oil of Capa Balsam, but I have the balsam here. This is from Eden Botanicals, and that's where I get a lot of my natural essential oils from. They give some really great information on their website about the materials that they sell. It's used in massage for calming massage blends. It's used in skincare and aftershaves. It's a versatile fixative in the middle to base notes in perfumery. It blends well with several other materials, including the ones that are listed here in this fragrance. So, I haven't said this before on this channel that I know of, but this is a great example of how a fragrance is more than the sum of its parts. This fragrance evokes things that each individual material doesn't, and all together they're blended well. And to come up with something that's extremely wearable from things that don't smell wearable at all, a lot of them, on their own. And as far as the therapy that the person I was working with, I believe the therapy worked because they no longer, after a few months, like less than 3 months, they were no longer obsessed with finding their birth family. They were more relaxed about finding their birth family, and they had come to a peaceful place about it. Maybe some of the fragrances, like this one, having some of the things from the earth and the trees and things that might have been in the air when they were growing up, had a connection for them and gave them a way of connecting, because this person was going to spray the fragrance at nighttime before bed and then dream. And you know, your mind just goes wherever it wants to when you're sleeping, and it's really important. And you might have dreams that will help you work through things, and having a fragrance alongside that is going to make it more powerful. So I would say that yes, this person I was working with worked through a lot of their trauma using perfume. I wish they would do research on perfume therapy, not just aromatherapy, but perfume therapy, because you could use things like you could use some vintage fragrances from a person's childhood, and you could have them use those in different ways to help them to relax while they're using it and get more comfortable with those scents, because those scents evoke memories deep inside, deep feelings that you don't necessarily have control over, and bring them out in a safe place where you can work through them and become more comfortable and empowered. I think fragrances can help a person become empowered into their own mind and their memories. So my dream is to do some kind of bespoke type perfumes for people that aren't that expensive. Now, it would depend on how many trials you needed to do in order to get to the fragrance that the person was after. But I wouldn't want it to be something exclusive. I would want to do bespoke fragrances as well as fragrances I would release. Fragrances that would help people to be calm or enhance their times of calmness and help them relax. And that's why one of the fragrances that I've been working on for like a year and a half now is temporarily or tentatively called Bedtime Potion, because I really like the idea of somebody spraying something before bed. I have a subscriber and they knew who they are. They received a sample of my fragrance and Bedtime Potion, and they have worn it to relax and read books and worn it to go to bed and sleep. So they're testing my fragrance to see how it works for them and give me some feedback on maybe how I can improve it. Because just because I've been working on this for a year and a half or so doesn't mean it's finished. It's not one that I can wear to bed yet. And I think once I become addicted to wearing something I made to bed, well, then I'll think it's ready for the market. Well, welcome everyone to my channel who has been a subscriber, or even if you're just watching and you're not a subscriber yet, welcome. I'm glad you're here. It gives me a place to just share my thoughts and ideas, and really helps me to form my thoughts in my own head. There are lots of conclusions I come to in these videos that I didn't have before. You know, they were all like up here, kind of floating around, no priorities in them, and not able to really form them in a way I was comfortable or knew how to. And then I do the video and I'm like, I come away from the video with a sense of completion, or a sense of, you know, I understand those fragrances better. And so I think that once I am ready to sell my fragrances, I should make videos, even if I don't publish them right away, but make videos on my fragrances individually and see how I would talk about my own fragrances. I really hope that you appreciate the detail that I put into these videos. I do it because it makes it more interesting for me. And I hope you appreciate it or enjoy it. It's for entertainment purposes. And, you know, that's how I think of the YouTube videos that I watch for, especially specifically fragrance channels. I think of it as relaxing. There's a type of ASMR aspect to it, and entertainment. So I hope that it's not too much, because some of these videos can get long. Inspirations for my channel are, first, Ramsey's fragrance channel. Yes, Ramsey's. In fact, there's probably some similarities that I have picked up on because I've watched so many of Ramsey's videos, and I like that a lot of his videos are long format. That is a new thing for me regarding finding fragrance channels that do long format videos. I find that inspiring. He doesn't edit, which is cool because he does a great job even though he doesn't edit. And his honesty, he speaks about things not just that he wants people to buy. He doesn't make any money off of it. So he's just giving his honest opinion. And I appreciate that. Even if I don't agree, you know, I don't have to. I just benefit from hearing that. And he has an openness towards fragrances that have been marketed in the past towards women. And that's great that he has that, especially vintage fragrances. I appreciate that. I've taken a lot of inspiration from him and his videos. And I've most likely taken unconscious inspiration too, because I sleep with my headphones on because I'm very sensitive to sound. I sleep with my headphones on, they're noise canceling, and I listen to playlists for fragrance channel videos. And I have listened to a very large amount of Ramsey's videos as well. So he has influenced me. Another person that I'm influenced by is Sarah Mays, and she has her own YouTube channel here. And then also the channel is called Delicious Delights, and I've watched her a lot. I'm always looking for new YouTube channels to pay attention to and watch. So if you have any recommendations, please leave them below. All right. Well, thank you everyone. And it's great to have you here. I will see you again very soon.